Dad, don't blink. Rick Harper froze in the doorway, his hand still on the screen latch, because in the backyard, right there between the tomato beds and the old bird bath, his little girl, Lily, was standing. Her wheelchair sat a few feet away on the grass, like it had been forgotten mid-sentence. Lily's knees trembled, her fingers clawing the air for balance, and beside her stood Denise Carter, the black woman who cleaned the offices after hours, one arm steady at Lily's waist, the other held out like a safety rail. Lily's eyes shone with that stubborn, hopeful kind of courage, and when she took one small step, then another, Rick's breath caught so hard, it felt like it scraped his ribs. "I'm doing it," Lily whispered, half laughing, half crying, and Denise murmured, "Easy, baby, let your body remember." Rick's mind raced for explanations, doctors, therapies, diagnoses, but Denise's calm didn't flinch. Later, when Rick finally found his voice, she didn't talk like a miracle had happened. She talked like someone had simply listened. "She wasn't only afraid of falling," Denise said softly. "She was afraid of letting you down. Everybody carried her so much, she started believing she couldn't do it." Rick looked at Lily's sweaty hair stuck to her forehead, cheeks flushed with pride, and something in him cracked open. He'd been chasing meetings and deadlines thinking love was providing. Denise had just shown him love could also be presence. Rick didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's bare feet pressing into the grass, hesitating, then deciding. The next morning he found Denise in the break room stirring sugar into a paper cup like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. "I need you to tell me the truth," Rick said, voice rough. "How did you do that? The therapists, the specialists, nobody got her to stand like that." Denise looked up slowly, and Rick noticed the way her gaze didn't dart or shrink. It held steady the way a good handrail does. "Because everybody kept looking at her legs," she said. I looked at her fear. Rick blinked, fear. Denise set the spoon down. Fear of falling. Fear of pain. Fear of seeing disappointment on your face even if you never meant to put it there. Her words weren't sharp, but they landed like weight. When a child gets carried everywhere, the message sinks in, you can't. That chair starts to feel safer than trying. Rick's throat tightened. He wanted to argue he'd carried Lily because he loved her, because it hurt to watch her struggle. But he remembered Lily's eyes wide and searching every time she wobbled. He remembered how quickly he'd swooped in, how often he'd said, "It's okay, sweetheart, Daddy's got you," without realizing he was also saying, "Don't risk it." Denise leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was sharing a family secret. "So I didn't make it about walking. I made it about winning. Reaching the roses, touching the fence post, beating me by one step." A faint smile tugged at her mouth. "Kids will do hard things if you wrap them in something that feels safe." Rick swallowed shame hot behind his eyes. "And if she falls, then we breathe," Denise said. "We let her cry. We help her up. And we don't act like falling is the end of the story." She paused, letting the silence do its work. Because it isn't. That afternoon, Denise didn't pull out any charts or talk about progress markers. She walked Lily into the backyard like they were heading to a picnic, not therapy. The sun sat warm on the porch steps, and Denise snapped a piece of sidewalk chalk in half. "All right, Miss Lily," she said, crouching. "So they were eye to eye today. We're playing Rose Ranger. Your job is to tag 3 flowers and come back to base. My job is to lose on purpose, but don't tell nobody." Lily's mouth twitched, trying not to smile. Her hands hovered near her chest, ready to brace for a fall. Denise tapped the grass with the chalk and drew a crooked line about 2 feet away. "One step to the line," she whispered. "That's all. Not walking. Just one step." Rick stood behind them, heart thumping like a drum he couldn't quiet. Lily shifted her weight knees, shaking breath coming in quick little pulls. "What if I mess up?" she asked, voice thin. Denise opened her palm. Then we mess up together, she said. But you don't quit just because your body gets loud. Lily stared at the line like it was the edge of a cliff. Then Denise pointed to a bright red bloom. That rose is talking trash about you, she teased. Said you won't tag it. Lily huffed, half offended, half amused, and that tiny spark changed everything. Her foot slid forward, heel first, slow as a sunrise. Her toes pressed down. She wobbled. Denise didn't grab her, just hovered close enough to catch, far enough to let Lily feel the win. That's it, Denise murmured. Let your legs vote. Lily reached the line, eyes wide, and a laugh burst out of her like she'd been holding it hostage for months. I did it. Rick swallowed hard, blinking fast. He realized Denise wasn't tricking Lily into walking. She was tricking Lily into believing she was brave and letting her body follow. By the third day, the backyard didn't feel like a miracle anymore. It felt like work. Lily stood at the chalk base with her jaw clenched, the roses swaying in a light breeze like they were waiting to see what she'd do. She lifted her foot, tried to step, and her leg buckled. She hit the grass with a soft thud, palms stinging. I can't. She snapped, tears springing up fast. It's not like yesterday. It's stupid. Rick lurched forward on instinct, but Denise raised one hand, gentle, not commanding, just enough to stop him. She didn't rush to pick Lily up like a broken doll. She lowered herself beside her close enough that Lily could feel her warmth. Look at me, baby, Denise said quietly. Lily kept her face turned away, shoulders shaking. Denise waited through the noise of it, through the messy breathing, the angry sniffle. Your muscle's been asleep a long time, she continued, voice steady like a metronome. They're waking up. Waking up hurts. Lily pressed her forehead into the grass. I hate it. I know. Denise brushed a blade of grass off Lily's cheek with 2 fingers. You get to hate it, but you don't get to quit while fear is doing the talking. Rick felt something twist in his chest. He'd spent months trying to spare Lily discomfort, but Denise was giving her something different, permission to struggle without being rescued from herself. Denise shifted back just a little and held out her hands. We're not going to the roses today, she said. Today we're going 1 foot. That's it. About 12 inches. Base to here. Then we celebrate like we won the Super Bowl. Lily let out a wet, stubborn laugh through her tears. That's dumb. Sure is, Denise said, smiling. Now put your hands on my wrists, not my shoulders. You're driving this car. Lily pushed herself up, slow, trembling, angry at the wobble in her knees. Denise stayed close, hovering like a safety net. And when Lily managed that tiny 12-inch step, Denise threw her arms up anyway. Touchdown, Denise shouted. Rick covered his mouth, eyes burning, as Lily's frown cracked into the smallest, proudest smile. Rick stayed out there long after Lily had gone inside for water, long after Denise wiped the chalk dust off her hands and headed back toward the house. The backyard went quiet in that late afternoon way, just the soft rattle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, and Rick's own breathing uneven like he'd run a mile. His phone buzzed in his pocket. One meeting reminder, then another. A string of pings that used to feel important. He pulled the phone out anyway, thumb hovering over the screen, and for a second he saw himself the way Lily must have always half-present eyes drifting to the next obligation. He looked down at the grass where she'd fallen, then at the crooked chalk line still stamped into the earth like a boundary between 2 lives, the one where he kept rushing and the one where he actually stayed. Inside, Lily's laugh floated through the screen door, bright and surprised, like she couldn't believe it belonged to her. Rick's throat tightened. He leaned a hand on the porch rail and stared at his knuckles until the sting behind his eyes forced him to blink. I missed it, he whispered, not to anyone in particular. The words came out raw. Not the steps he'd seen, those. He meant everything that led up to them. The days Denise had quietly turned fear into a game. The small wins Rick hadn't been there to notice. The nights he'd said Daddy has to work, and meant it like an apology that should magically fix things. A memory flashed Lily at the living room window months ago, watching neighborhood kids ride bikes. Her chin had trembled, but she'd swallowed it down like she was practicing disappointment. Rick remembered swooping in with the wheelchair, trying to be helpful, trying to be kind, and not seeing how her shoulders sank the moment she sat. The screen lit again. A colleague's name. A deadline. Rick's thumb finally moved not to answer, but to open his calendar. Rows of meetings filled the week like a wall. He scrolled, jaw tightening, and something inside him shifted from shame to clarity. He started canceling. 1, 2, 3. The confirmations popped up like little acts of rebellion. Behind him, the screen door creaked. Denise stood there, quiet as ever, a dish towel over her shoulder. She didn't crowd him. She just waited. Rick swallowed, eyes fixed on the yard. "I thought I was doing everything right," he said, voice breaking on the last word. "Providing, fixing, protecting." He shook his head, the laugh that came out almost angry. "Turns out I've been the one teaching her to be afraid." Denise stepped closer, not touching him, but close enough that he felt less alone in it. "You didn't mean harm," she said softly. "But love can still get in the way if it won't let a child try." Rick nodded, blinking hard. Through the doorway, Lily called Dad. "Come see." He pocketed the phone like it was suddenly heavy and useless, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel pulled in two directions. He turned toward his daughter's voice, heart pounding with one clear thought: don't miss another moment you can actually hold. The next morning, Rick walked into his office like a man wearing someone else's suit. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh coffee, the same as always, but his chest felt tight anyway. His assistant, Megan, popped up from behind her monitor. "You've got the client call at 9, the board prep at 10:30, lunch with..." "Cancel it," Rick said. She blinked, a pen frozen midair. "Cancel. Which one?" "All of them." He heard how wild it sounded and forced his voice to steady. "Move what you can to next week. Anything that's just noise, drop it." Megan's brows pulled together. Rick, the Wilcox meeting took 3 weeks to land. Rick stared at the wall calendar like it was a judge. For a second, he saw Lily's face. Instead, sweat on her forehead, eyes shining, knees shaking, still choosing to stand. He swallowed. "Then they can wait. My daughter can't." The first call he took was from his boss. The speakerphone lit up. "Rick, I'm hearing you're blowing up your schedule. What's going on?" Rick's fingers tightened around the edge of his desk until his knuckles went pale. He could feel his pulse in his throat. "I'm stepping away for a bit," he said. "Not quitting, not disappearing, just reprioritizing. I'll deliver what matters, but I'm not trading my kid's life for another slide deck." A long pause, thick enough to taste. Then, surprisingly, the voice on the other end softened. "Is she okay?" "She's fighting," Rick said, and his eyes stung. "And I'm done watching from the sidelines." When the call ended, he didn't sit back down. He grabbed his coat, ignored the buzzing phone, and walked out with his shoulders high like he was bracing for a storm. In the elevator, he caught his reflection, Ty, slightly crooked eyes, tired, jaw set, and he looked older than he had yesterday. Not weaker, just awake. By the time he pulled into the driveway, the afternoon light was already slanting across the yard. The screen door banged open before he could even shut the car door. Dad Lily's voice carried like a bell. Rick's breath hitched. He hurried to the porch and dropped to one knee, meeting her at eye level. Denise stood behind Lily, calm as ever, a faint smile tucked into one corner of her mouth like she'd been expecting him. "You're home early," Denise said. Rick nodded, unable to stop staring at Lily's feet planted on the welcome mat, steady, determined. He reached out, not to scoop her up, but to offer his hands like an invitation. "Yeah," he whispered. "I'm here. No meetings, no excuses." He held her gaze, letting her see it in his eyes. "Show me what we're working on today, kiddo." Denise didn't hand Rick a list of exercises. She handed him a new way to stand. Okay, she said, stepping onto the grass with Lily between them. Rule number 1. You don't lift her. You spot her. Denise placed 2 fingers on Rick's forearm like a reminder. If you carry her, she'll feel your strength instead of hers. Rick nodded, trying to slow his breathing. Lily watched him with that cautious, hopeful look like she wanted to trust him. But she'd been disappointed by gravity too many times. Where do I hold? He asked. Denise guided his hands to Lily's hips, then slid them down until his palms hovered just off her sides. Close enough to catch, she murmured far enough to let her work. Then she tapped Lily's wrists. And you, she told Lily, you hold your dad's wrists, not his shoulders. Shoulders make grown-ups feel like furniture. Wrists keep you in charge. Lily's fingers wrapped around Rick's wrists, small and warm. Rick felt his throat tighten. He'd held those hands when she was a baby, when they trusted him without question. Now she was asking him to earn it again. Ready, Rick whispered. Lily swallowed hard. Don't grab me too fast. The request landed like a punch and a gift at the same time. Rick nodded. I won't, he promised. I'm here. I'm not taking over. Denise drew 2 chalk circles about 3 feet apart. Base to base, she announced like an umpire. That's today's whole world. No roses, no fence post, just 3 feet. And when you get there, Rick has to do his best touchdown dance. No excuses. Rick let out a shaky laugh. Oh, come on. Denise arched an eyebrow. You canceled your meetings. You can cancel your dignity too. Lily snorted, and the sound small reel loosened something in Rick's chest. They started. Lily shifted her weight forward, knees trembling, jaw clenched. Rick's hands hovered, every instinct screaming to scoop her up, to fix it, to make it easy. He kept his promise and stayed the net, not the puppet master. Halfway to the second circle, Lily's foot caught and she dipped sideways. Rick's arms surged forward. Wrists, Denise snapped softly, not harsh, just precise. Rick stopped himself. Lily tightened her grip on his wrists, steadied, found her balance again. Her eyes flashed up at him, surprised, almost proud. You didn't grab me, she breathed. I'm learning, Rick said, voice breaking around the words. Lily took the last step and landed inside the chalk circle. Denise threw both arms in the air. Touchdown. Rick, tears burning, did the stupidest little shuffle he'd ever done in his life. Lily giggled, full-bodied, unguarded, and then without being asked, she turned back toward him. Again, she said. And this time, when she stepped toward her father, Rick didn't feel helpless. He felt present, steady, humbled, and finally useful in the way that mattered most. Denise didn't celebrate for long. After Lily went inside, still giggling, still riding the high of her touchdown, Denise stayed on the porch steps, wiping her hands on her jeans like she was putting a lid back on something fragile. Rick hovered near the doorway, watching her the way you watch someone who just pulled your family back from the edge. Denise, he said, and his voice came out quieter than he intended. I need you to teach me. She lifted her eyes, steady, unreadable at first. Teach you what? Rick took a breath, slow and deliberate, like he was practicing the same courage Lily was learning. How to not mess this up. He let out a shaky laugh that didn't sound like humor. I've been swooping in like a hero. Turns out I've been the obstacle. Denise's expression softened, but she didn't let him off the hook. You're her dad, she said. That instinct to catch her, it's not wrong, it's just loud. I don't want loud, Rick replied, throat tight. I want useful. He glanced toward the hallway where Lily's footsteps, small, careful, padded away. I can't be the guy who shows up for the highlight reel and disappears for the hard parts. Not anymore. Denise studied him for a long beat. Rick felt it in his chest, that waiting like he was standing at the chalk line himself. Finally, she nodded once. All right, she said. Then we do this like a team, and teams got rules. Rick leaned forward, elbows on his knees, listening like it was the most important meeting of his life. Rule 1, Denise said, holding up a finger. You don't correct her fear with your words. You correct it with your calm. If you panic, she panics. Rick nodded, swallowing. Rule 2, she continued. You praise effort, not perfection. Don't make her feel like she has to earn your face lighting up. Rick's eyes stung at that. He looked down at his hands. Hands that had built a career, signed contracts, shaken thousands of palms, yet still didn't always know how to hold his own child without taking over. And Rule 3, Denise said, her voice softer. Now you don't do this to her. You do it with her. Ask her what she's ready for. Let her choose the next line. Rick exhaled, the air trembling out of him. Will you keep checking me? He asked. When I start to grab too fast. When I start making it about me. Denise gave a small smile. Tired, but real. Oh, I will, she said. I'm not here to be your miracle worker. I'm here to help y'all build something that lasts. From inside, Lily called Dad, Denise, come look. Rick stood, and for the first time he didn't feel like a visitor in his own home. He looked at Denise, really looked, and extended his hand, not as a boss, not as someone handing out gratitude like a tip, but as a man asking to be better. Partners, he said. Denise took his hand, firm and warm. Partners, she answered, and together they stepped through the doorway toward Lily's voice, toward the next shaky, beautiful step. Denise didn't ask for applause. She didn't want a speech. But Rick couldn't ignore what had changed in his house, how the air felt lighter, how Lily's laughter showed up more often than her silence. That evening, after Lily finally fell asleep, one sock half off cheeks, still pink from trying, Rick found Denise at the kitchen sink, rinsing a plate like she'd done it 1,000 times. He cleared his throat, the words catching. Denise, he said, I need you to know. You're not just helping my daughter walk. His voice wavered. You gave her back her confidence. You gave me back my family. Denise kept her eyes on the running water for a second, then turned off the faucet. When she faced him, her expression was gentle but firm, like she wouldn't let him turn this into a fairy tale. I didn't do it alone, she said. She did the hard part. And you showed up. Rick nodded, blinking fast. You're part of us, he said simply. Not staff, not the help. Family. Denise's lips pressed together, and for a moment her eyes shined like she was fighting something back. She gave one small nod, accepting but also protecting the moment from getting too big. From the hallway, Lily's sleepy voice floated out, Dad. Are you still there? Rick's answer came without hesitation. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm right here. And when he glanced back at Denise, she was smiling, quiet, proud, like she'd been waiting to hear that sentence all along. Sometimes the biggest healing isn't in our bodies, it's in the fear we carry. The people we love don't always need us to rescue them. They need us to believe in them, stay calm when they wobble, and stay close without taking over. Being present, really present, can change a life. If this story touched you, share what it reminded you of. Have you ever realized you were helping someone, but also holding them back? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.